Recently when I saw her at the Man Who Knew Infinity about Ramanujam, and she played the mother-in-law. And so Prasad and I were discussing that it will be nice to have her because a person who has been in the theater, a person who has been in the movies, and more importantly now a biopic, which we try to understand as to how does one get inside a biopic. I know the role, the character, and therefore I was just requesting her, and she immediately said fine. Except she said please do it only on a Saturday or a Sunday, and that too during the early part of the day because she spent most of the time at the Ranga Shankara. So Aru, over to you. It's all about yourself to tell us more about what was your experience in the theater, how was it in the movies, and of course, how was it in the biopic? And there are quite a few who are interested in asking questions. We will restrict it to 45 minutes to 1 hour as we had discussed, but please feel free to let us know in case you want to change anything along the way.
Namaste. Good Sunday morning to everyone. So thank you, Lakshmi Narayanji, for calling me. And yes, I don't know most of the people who are on the other side. So pleasant surprise to also know Saras and speak to her after so long on this platform. How does one begin? Yes, this has been a long life in the theatre. Somebody who entered into a rehearsal accidentally should take to theatre like a fish to water. And I've been there for the last 45 years. I've occupied this space with the conviction of not wanting to be anywhere else. So it's been a long time. And I think theatre, being one of the most generous art forms, allowed someone like me to enter it, embraced someone like me who was just an actor. I have not really qualified. I haven't gone to the National School of Drama, or I'm not a trained actor. So I call myself an Abhimanyu of sorts. I know how to get in there. I have my own tools to negotiate with a character or a role or a play that I'm doing. In fact, my own tools to even negotiate a dream like Ranga Shankara, which just happened to find me as the person who will complete it. And sometimes I find myself in situations where I cannot extricate myself because I don't have the tools to come out like an Abhimanyu, really. But it's been a very, very rewarding journey. It has given me my reason to live on this planet. It has given me an identity, and it has given me a purpose to go forward, even beyond the edifice of Ranga Shankara, which I happen to kind of be there as the fulcrum, as the pivotal point, that I called myself the principal beggar of this project. So this project was a labor of love, and we were just 5 dreamers, theatre people, not industrialists, not politicians, not even bureaucrats, who just went on this journey of saying that we want to give Bangalore a theatre, we want to give theatre a home in Karnataka, in Bangalore. Now, if one looks at the playing field, Karnataka, it's not as though we created theatre in Karnataka or Bangalore. No, not at all. The Karnataka already has an extremely old history of theatre, and we have had the maximum number of Gyanpith awardees coming from this state, right from Sri Ranga to Girish Karnad. And Girish has been like a mentor, a guru, everything as far as Shankar and I were concerned in theatre, really. And he is one of India's best playwrights. So I can't say more than saying that we were blessed to have Girish as the chairperson of our theatre trust. It's a trust that runs the theatre. It's a trust that built the theatre. So it's a not-for-profit charitable trust called the Sanket Trust. Girish was the chairperson of our trust, and we are 4 other theatre bumpkins who worked with Shankar. I believe that if Shankar was there, Shankar being Shankar Nag, for those of you who don't know, Shankar Nag was my theater collaborator, my comrade, and right through college. And then we got married, so we also became husband and wife. And we built many small little dreams together, theater being the principal dream always. So I think he was cheated out of this little dream that he wanted to also be part of, which is build a theater for Bangalore. From the day we came to Bangalore, we wanted a theater, a small theater space in which the amateur theater community could perform without having to pay an arm and a leg. Because you have the Chaudhaya Memorial Halls, which charge you 1.5 lakhs. And if you have to pay a rent of 1.5 lakhs, then you really walk into the arms of a cigarette company or a liquor company that sponsors your play and wants to have the picture of its bottle larger than the title. So this was the scenario. I'm talking of 40 years ago when we came to Bangalore. There was only a Ravindra Kalakshetra, where if you applied for a date, you got one date once in 3 months, which meant you could perform only 4 shows in a year. And that show could be cancelled by the government if a dignitary was entering Bangalore and they wanted to have the function to welcome the dignitary. And also it was a 1,000-seat auditorium. So filling 1,000 seats is not easy. And so we always wanted small theaters in Bangalore. It did not happen during Shankar's lifetime. And so the rest of us theater people who were working with him, we continued to nurse that dream. And that dream really came to fruition 20 years later. So now it's 30 years since Shankar's gone, and Ranga Shankara is 16 years old. So it took 14 years for us to get our act together, to get the land, to find the money. And I know I've met Mr. Lakshmi Narayan when he was in MICO, and a lot of people in responsible positions in Bangalore have had to suffer my asking because I did not stop. I mean, I was driven by only one madness, and that was to build this theater. So if I met somebody today and they said, well, business is not doing well, come back to me after a year, I would have written that date in my diary. I did not have a secretary. So I would have written that date in my diary. And to the date, I would call the gentleman back and say, on the 12th of December last year, you said I should come back to you after a year. So I'm back. Is your company doing better? Can you give some money to the theater? So there are so many people who have contributed to this dream coming true. And that speaks volumes for Bangalore, Karnataka. So we have not raised money from people from Bombay. We have not raised money from the film industry, which Shankar supposedly belonged to. He was a matinee hero after all. But I really believed that since theater was going to be the recipient of this space, then we must find people who respond to the need for a theater, and who will probably be our future sponsors or our future patrons, people who, in Kannada, we have a word called spandisodu, whose heart beats for the theater. We would look for those kind of people to contribute money. This is the story of Ranga Shankara. We are now 16 years old. We have had more than 7,000 performances on our stage. Our commitment is to having a show a day. And we actually have more than a show a day because we have 400 shows in a year. Monday is the only holiday we take. We rent our place out for 2,500 rupees. And that's probably the cheapest theater in the world. Cheapest, well-equipped, well-maintained theater. And those 2,500 rupees give you 20 lights and 50 tons of air conditioning for 2 hours. So this is the atmosphere in which the amateur theater of India flocks to Ranga Shankara, because you don't get such a well-equipped, affordable space anywhere in the country. And that having been done, now we feel my learning from this kind of a project is that it's not enough to have one Rangashankara in Bangalore. So we have obviously serviced lakhs and lakhs of people have come. Many youngsters have formed theatre groups. When we opened, there were only around 40 theatre groups in Bangalore. Today we have 150 theatre groups. And these are people who don't earn their livelihoods from the theatre. They're all people who work as bank clerks or waiters in Kamath restaurants or auto drivers or sons of industrialists. You could be anyone. Theatre really doesn't care. Theatre just wants people who are dedicated to theatre and who are good at what they do. These are the two criteria. Dedication is more important. And then talent you can hone. So I think Rangashankara has fulfilled a certain need in the structure of theatre, amateur theatre in the country. But my learning is that one theatre is really not enough. And having theatres only in the A cities, which is Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, is not enough for India. We really need to look at B and C city centers where a boy growing up in a small place, even Bhubaneswar doesn't have a theatre. And Orissa is so rich in culture. Or smaller towns like Kota. Kota has the maximum number of IAS officers, youngsters applying for the IAS exams, but nothing culturally, zilch, zero. So I think a national plan could be drawn up if the industry woke up to it. We cannot expect the government. The government has already got a culture department. They have slashed budgets, and the government can do only this much. Knowing the kind of government we all are ruled by now, we can expect very little. So theatre really needs, I think, the industry to get bolder and say that, yes, we will invest. Because this is building, character building, it's a nation building exercise. Theatre is the art of speaking the truth, and speaking the truth in many different ways. And I believe that it's time we began to have more such platforms. So theatre has made me speak the way I'm speaking today. Everything that I am is because of the theatre I have engaged with. My history is very old. I joined IPTA, which was an Indian People's Theatre Association, at the age of 16. And this was a communist answer to, it was a communist platform, left of center platform that engaged in the arts to form a voice, a uniform voice of the labor and the downtrodden in India, to tell the British to leave. So the Congress was the right of center, and the Communist Party was the left of center, and IPTA was a theatre with an ideology that was a left of center. So that was my entry into theatre, with stalwarts like Kaifi Azmi and A.K. Hangal, all of whom had made a choice of which country they wanted to belong to. They chose to come to India. They chose not to go to Pakistan. Their souls are not going to be rest in peace today. They're going to be very, very unhappy people with the way the country actually let them down. These are my political views. And that sometimes reflects in the kind of conversations we have at the theatre. I hope we will do more. I've done more than 2,000 performances on stage, so there's a lot of experience here. And cinema, I've been fortunate, not done too much in cinema, but every film that I did was received very well. They were good roles. So I had a taste of Bollywood with working with Amitabh Bachchan on a film called Pa. And I learned how, no wonder the man is so popular and so famous. Not only is he talented, he is so disciplined. And his tolerance levels on the sets are very, very high. So I haven't seen him throw a film superstar tantrum. I got to also engage with a Hollywood film, which was a biopic on Ramanujam, A.K. Ramanujam, the famous mathematician. And that was interesting because I played his mother. And Ramanujam's mother has been painted as a villain because she loved her son to death, literally. As the saying goes, she did not send the letters that his wife so lovingly wrote to him, which could have been an anchor for Ramanujam, who, being a Brahmin, starved himself into weakness while he was in England, and in the biting cold came down with TB and came back to India and died. But those love letters could have given him sustenance. And this mother, who also had nobody else, who only had a son and only had love for him, felt that those letters would distract him from the maths that he went to do across the 7 seas. So this was, I mean, I had the choice. The director gave me the choice of playing the wicked, possessive mother, but I really saw her as fulfilling her dharma. And she was just being a mother. She was doing what she knew how to do best. In the process, she actually shortchanged the daughter-in-law. So for those of you who would like to see how that role was executed, you can see this film called The Man Who Knew Infinity, and Dev Patel plays Ramanujam. Oh, what else can I share with you? Yes, the Kannada film industry has been, I've done only about 3 movies in Kannada. And the last film that was released was called Jogi. You can check it out. It was done about 11 years ago. And 11 years ago, that was the last super hit film. It has broken all records. And why did I do that film? I remember my daughter saying to me, "Ma, I won't see this film, not for love, not for money." And because it had a lot of violence in it. And I played the mother of the protagonist. And I played that because she was like the mother of all mothers that appear in commercial movies. And something I am not, and I would not be. So I guess cinema and theater really afford us the opportunity to be many things that we are not. Like there was a film called Minsara Kanavu, which I played with Prabhudeva and Kajol. And that was directed by Rajiv Menon. And I played a mother superior in the film. I knew I'm never going to convert or never going to become somebody who joins a spiritual or a religious faith like this and becomes part of the establishment of the religious faith. So playing Mother Superior, it was great. Just wearing that habit makes you feel different. So I have really had a very, very fruitful life that has allowed me to play various roles that I cannot be, don't want to be. And many wise, what can I call it, sutras of life have come to me through the theater that I have done. Because you actually empathize with the situation of a character, and that all those characters you play do affect your life. They enrich your life. And I have found that many a time in many situations, I have played the role of a woman who gives poison to her son. I have played the role that is Ibsen's Ghosts. And I have played the role of a woman who has a philanderer husband. And that was the same play. I've played the role of a woman who decides to operate her daughter who has cancer because she doesn't want to take a chance. She believes that the daughter would either recover or die. And she chooses to get into that kind of a situation. So also played many foolish characters, played the fool, played the jester. And I really believe that all these characters have probably made me into a more interesting person, surely a stronger person, surely more articulate and empathetic. So here I am at the age of 64. It's been a long journey. I started when I was 16 and I was doing Marathi, Gujarati, Hindi theatre in Bombay. Came to Bangalore at the age of 23 and had to learn Kannada because otherwise I would have had to go back. And I learned that if I have to do theatre, I have to learn Kannada. So I have happily learned Kannada. And I can say that many a time I find myself thinking in Kannada also today. So while Marathi is supposed to be my mother tongue, Hindi is the tongue I speak in. I think in Hindi, and English comes next. So I'm very, very happy that my parents and the world I come from allowed me to connect with Indian languages, our Indian languages, because I think the metaphors really are there. And for me, English is the learned language. And you can see that I fumble for the words, but I am able to communicate. It's great to have English as a communicating platform. But at Ranga Shankara too, 70% of our programs are in Kannada. And I believe that if you go to China, you should try to learn Chinese. If you live in Karnataka, you should try to learn at least some communication Kannada. I find many people who live in cities, many places, but live off the cities and don't contribute to the language or participate in the language or the culture. So that's why we are going to have extremely fragmented cities. I think that's all. I have a daughter and she's 35, so she's a woman and she's on her own. And the theater really is where I want to engage and see what we can do for children, what we can do for the crafts, and of course, theater in Bangalore. I think I will stop here and I'm open to questions.
Thank you so
Arun,
much for sharing that.
While Shibu will do the moderation, I just wanted to ask you one question about two questions. One was on Sandhya Chaya and which I've seen, and also on the biopic. You know, when you played the mother-in-law of Ramanujam, it's a very tough mother of Ramanujam, very tough because you are such a wicked woman, and you portrayed it so well. I mean, at the end of it, we were so angry with you. But how do you manage to really understand in order to portray it? It's completely different to what you are because I know you so well.
That's acting, no?
Yeah, I understand. But you must get into it, right?
No, I just kind of decided that here is a mother who loves her son, and you cannot make her into a villain. You cannot. The situation is such. And she does everything in her capacity to make sure that he is not distracted. So if you understand the subtext of the character, really, the backstory and the subtext and what this woman actually probably has gone through, because she had a husband who was selling saris, who was a traveling salesman. And she only had this weakling child. Ramanujam was not a very healthy child, and he was her only child. So there you are. So long ago, 100 years ago, a Tamilian woman in a Brahmin community, in a Kumbakonam, you try to understand this whole geography and history and a place. Imagine an uneducated woman who was not completely illiterate, but she was not as educated as Ramanujam was going to be. She just had the raw energy of a mother, which was easy for me once one had plotted these points of where the woman comes from, what is her history. She might probably be 1 out of 9 children, because that's how many children people had in those days. And you kind of plot her realities and you find your character.
Thank you, Aru. Over to Shibu.
Yeah.
So, okay, Dr. Saras wanted to ask a question. So, Dr. Saras, can you unmute yourself and go ahead?
One of the roles that, one of the many roles in which I remember Aru particularly was that of Mother video, Courage. Please? And I know that Girish admired her in that enormously. So Aru, would you talk about briefly maybe what playing Mother Courage meant to you, what that experience was like?
Yeah, Saras, are you talking about the Kannada Mother Courage or the English Mother Courage?
The Kannada, I think. That's the one I've seen you in. But if there was a difference, it'd be interesting to know what.
Yes, the Kannada Mother Courage was, okay, it's a very, very important landmark moment in my life after Shankar left, because that was the last conversation I had with Shankar before we had the accident. And Shankar said to me, when we come back, I want to do Mother Courage. Will you play Mother? And I said, yes, let's see what happens. And he never came back. So one friend, Surendranath, who was the artistic director of Rangashankara till a couple of months ago, he adapted the play. I was, of course, a vegetable for too long. But he adapted the play to the Mysore Wars and made her, she's a gypsy in the original German play. And it was based on the long European wars. We had long Karnataka wars also. So the play was adapted to the Karnataka wars, where you had enough confusion with the British and the Marathas and the Nizam's army, everyone adding to the confusion of a battle. So we adapted the play, and we had to wait for almost close to a year, 9 months before I walked again. And then we started the rehearsals. So this was the play that really helped me rise again, stand on my feet. And we rehearsed. It was amazing because we did this play as a tribute to Shankar on his first death anniversary. That was all we could do. We theater people don't know how to do anything. We don't do shraddhas and pujas and stuff like that. So this was our offering to a friend who was not there with us anymore, something he wanted to do. So we did 3 plays that Shankar wanted to do for his first anniversary, actually. We did Mother Courage, Royal Hunt of the Sun by Peter Sheffer, and Taledanda by Girish, because that was also something he wanted to do. So in fact, when I was going to enter the stage, this was the first time in my life that I was going to take an entry onto stage and to know that Shankar did not exist anywhere on this earth. That was, I did not know whether I will remember my lines. But I took my entry and said my first dialogue, and I knew that everything was fine, that I existed, that my art was mine, and Shankar was a part of my life, but he was not something that would stymie me, something that would paralyze me. His memory was going to be a strength and not a weakness. So Mother Courage meant so many things to me and the whole theater group that Shankar and I were working with. Everybody knew that we are going to look forward. We are not going to look backwards. And that's what we did. We did not revive any of the old plays. We went forward. So Mother Courage is about a play about a woman who loses all, who is called the hyena of the battlefield. She lives off the war and she loses her children to the war, but she does not know how to do anything else. She only knows how to sell bullets that were found on a dead body to another army and make a living. And here is a woman who loses everything, but says that this is all I know how to do, and continues in the war. So one could find parallels, one could find strength, one could find reasoning. And then I got to do Mother Courage. Now, after 30 years, I got to do Mother Courage in English in Bombay. Kwasar Padamsee directed the play. And he was trying to adapt it into today, if we had a Holocaust kind of a situation, then how would people survive and how would a woman like her survive? I don't think the play landed the way he wanted to, because wars have changed now. Wars have become much multidimensional. They are not at the physical level. So one could probably do a good Mother Courage today if one took the war away and looked at loss, looked at cunning, looked at those emotions. But it was a great experience for me because I was acting with people who were less than half my age. For that great experience to act me perform, so to use their breath, sustain their energy through a play like this. And I just learned what was going on amongst us in the country.
Thank you for that. I think Prasad, you can go next.
Yeah, Arundhati, this is a question that's always bothered me, and I always wanted to ask somebody who did both theater and films. You know, much like cricket, where you are a performer, you have certain competencies, but you play in different formats with different experiences. Yeah. I've always wondered that somebody in theater is a no second take person. And that's a challenge of theater. There's no second take. How many ever rehearsals you've done? When you're on stage, there is no second take. As opposed to films where there are dedicated artists who sort of thrive on the fact that I will do 10 takes to get it perfect and so on. So I'm not making a film actor any less competent for having done multiple takes. But how does somebody who does both, like you, how do you deal with that in terms of when you are in a film as opposed to being in a play? Or does it change the way you approach your acting, or how do you take on that challenge?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I think it's really a case of proportions. And they are both individually very, very different challenges. They are different mediums, you know. So while cinema is capable of even capturing just the flicker of a muscle over here near the eye before you cry, and a flicker, your lip quivering before you actually, the tear rolls out. So to understand the dynamics of the emotion and how does a tear roll out, what happens before that. And if you're doing that for stage, you have to multiply it by 5. That would become a kind of, that would be a flicker, and this would be a much more pronounced action. So you have, of course, it is like a jeweler who makes jewelry. So you can make a big fat bangle out of it, and you can make a very fine filigree thing out of it. But essentially, it is gold. So essentially, it is human emotions. It is portraying human emotions. It is becoming someone else. Because if we begin to be, then we will go mad. So imagine playing a mad woman's role and believing that you are mad. How are you going to retrieve yourself? Or how are you going to do the checks and balances? How much of sanity are you going to retain in the character who is actually insane? Because you need to go forward, you need to deliver. So I think these are the intelligence quotients that actors need to have as part of their ammunition. Yeah, you might not be a PhD, you might not be even have gone to the National School of Drama, like I did not, but I probably have the basic raw intelligence to empathize, to understand, to dissect, to decide how much to put out there and how much to hold back, because even holding back has a great power. Silence has a great power. The power to recognize the power of silence, to recognize the power of the gap between two words and place your words. So these, I think, in both the mediums, they're slightly different. The level, the degree of emphasis is different, but essentially they're the same. And also, cinema is so fragmented. Cinema is a fragmented art. I mean, one action of mine like this could be cut into 4 different shots, and the director is God. The actor is not the principal mover in cinema. I don't get to decide the direction of the film. But in theater, once the director has finished showing us what he or she wants to extract from the piece, which was written by the playwright, pretty much the actor can mess it up. The actor is the vehicle who delivers. The actor is the one who makes the play happen at that moment. So the actor is very powerful. And I think we all love theater because also the actor has this direct relationship with the audience. And that's the high. I think that's the addictive quality that theater gives to all of us theater people. We really live on that high of the relationship between what the playwright has written and what happens in that moment of our delivery between the audience and us. They say that in a live performance, it could be music also, and theater also. Within the first 14 or 15 minutes of the performance, at one point of time, the heartbeats of everybody in an auditorium, they begin to align with one another. And that is what happens in satsang. That is what happens in a live performance. That is what happens when human beings come together and actually empathize with whatever is going on in front of them together. That is the power.
Thank you.
So Shibu, can I go?
Go ahead, Benny.
Someone's going.
No. As in Benny's. Benny wants to ask. Okay.
Hi, Arundhati ma'am. This is Benny here.
Yes, we kind of communicated. Yes.
Yeah. When I saw the movie Pa, there are two moments in that character that you played, which I reflected on later, which women and mothers of today face increasingly, especially in a culture like India's. The first is when Vidya comes and tells you that she's pregnant, and you as a mother agrees to go ahead with the pregnancy, continue the pregnancy. And the second moment is when her husband comes to know of her living in the same town or city, and you're the one who's pushing her to go and patch up or meet with Abhishek. How much did you believe in these two different or seemingly diametrically opposite versions of a mother when you played that? You are also a mother of a daughter.
Yes. I think that is where acting comes into play. You give the experience of a lifetime to the character. You give your body, your voice, and you see whether there is something that you agree with. You cannot be playing roles that you agree with all the while. Yeah. So I think that at that point of time, you part company and you say, okay, this woman behaves this way. So I loved the way, in fact, that was why I took the role up, because here was a woman who was spunky enough to tell her daughter that, do you want to have the baby or don't you? I'm with you either way. I'm not going to leave you if you say I don't want the baby, but I'm going to be with you in the tougher decision, which is if you have the baby. So I don't think these are dilemmas for actors. Yes, sometimes some people have dilemmas like if they're offered extremely politically wrong and negative roles. Yeah. So I did a play by Athol Fugard called Road to Mecca. And I had a co-actor who was playing the pastor. So the pastor is the one who wants this woman to go into an old age home. And the actor who was playing that role completely disagreed. After doing 2 shows, he realized that, oh my God, this is a different, this role has a completely different meaning. And I don't politically agree with this. So he left the play. It took him 2 shows and 1 month of rehearsals to actually realize that this is something that is going against my political convictions, my moral convictions, and he left the play. So some actors do suffer like that. But I've been fortunate not to have that dilemma. And in Pa, no, I felt that here was this woman who has seen loneliness herself, and very beautifully, Balki chose not to tell us what her husband did, whether she is a single parent of her own volition or whether it was because of her death. But she has the conviction. So you only know that much about her. I did not know much about her. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Hema, you can go next.
Hi, ma'am. Very fantastic to hear you talk. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about, me and how I followed you over the years, at the risk of sounding like a groupie. Back in the 90s, I was in medical college. Grew up in Bombay, so I knew a little bit. So first saw Shankar Nag in the movie Accident. That's what opened my eyes to Kannada movies, and
okay.
And then I heard about, I think the Manipal County was initially yours, right?
Yes.
And then so I knew that you had this thing that it was called County Club, I think, at that time.
It was called Country Club.
Country Club, yes.
Yeah.
And then this entire tragedy with Shankar Nag, and I think I probably cried. I was that upset. I don't think I knew you that well, but I was probably a Shankar Nag groupie back then. And then Utsav, obviously, Girish Karnad and Utsav. And did you know that coincidentally he acted in Utsav and you acted in Kama Sutra? That's,
yeah.
I think that's quite a coincidence. 2 movies based on the same book, and both of you have acted in it and at different times of your...
Kama Sutra was a takeoff on the Kama Sutra, on Vatsayan.
Exactly.
Kama
Yes.
Sutra.
But
Yes.
I mean, even in Utsav, Kama Sutra was being written by Vatsayan at that time, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, and in fact, when later on, when I saw you in Kama Sutra, and then the Kama Sutra movie, and I mistakenly thought that you were in Utsav. So I was searching for you, having seen Utsav several years later, and I didn't find you there. I'm like, which role is she in? Shankar Nag was obviously there front and center as a crook who goes in and out of that house. Then I realized that that is an entirely different movie that you had been in. Also, we have been to Ranga Shankara. Had the good fortune, you arranged a meeting for my son who does drama with Nasiruddin Shah. So he still goes around saying, this is the hand that Nasiruddin Shah shook. He goes to BS, the Bangalore School of Speech and Drama. And so it was a big moment for him. Lakshmi actually arranged it. So thanks a lot, Lakshmi, for that. So coming to your career, when are you going to bring out Nagamandala again to Ranga Shankara? Because I would dearly like to see it. And who would you pick today, for the lead roles?
Now, I think we have to really have an erasure of Shankar Nag as Kapanna and Aparna.
Yes, I don't know.
It's very difficult to fight a ghost. So that's why we did not revive any of his plays, any of the plays that he acted in. That's why we decided to go forward and not look backwards. So you are among those fortunate people who's probably seen Nagamandala.
No, I haven't. That's why I want to see it.
Yeah, but we will surely. I really believe that.
I read the book.
Yeah, no. All of Girish's plays, my God, each one of them deserves to be interpreted and done further. Neelam Mansingh has done 3 different versions of that play, and those were Girish's favorite versions, actually. He loved the way she worked. She's from Punjab, Neelam Mansingh Chaudhary, and she did a beautiful version, 3 different versions of Nagamandla, and 2 of them have come to Bangalore to Rangashankara. So I'm really hoping that we will be able to put together you have a very famous Norwegian award called the Ibsen Awards, and they are global awards. So Ibsen left back a body of works, and you have a jury, and you have people from all over the world who apply, give their interpretation of any play of Ibsen. They apply once a year, and then those interpretations are funded by the Ibsen Awards Committee. About 6 such global people from around the world are given that award. I'm hoping that we will be able to put one in memory of Girish, and that would probably spawn a whole bunch of people, youngsters and people all over the world, who would then do interpretations of Girish's work. And Nagamandla would only be one of them. So we will have versions of Nagamandla. I want to see many versions of Tughlaq, many versions of Agni Mattu Male.
When you mentioned Girish Karnad, I just wanted to tell you, it was after he passed away, I think, Shibu and I were in Rangashankara, and suddenly his voice comes through to telling us to switch off the mobile. As soon as the voice started, I said, oh my God, that's Girish Karnad. That was brilliant that you got him to record that message. Very, very impressive.
He was our chairperson, and he really cared for us, cared for Rangashankara. He cared for theatre. So this is, and we kept the voice because that gives
fantastic. Don't take it away.
We don't look at it as something that makes us feel sad before a play. That's something that gives us all strength.
Absolutely.
To go on.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Rajita, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. This is Rajita from Gurgaon.
Okay. Hi.
My question to you is, you've had such a stellar role in theatre. Is there any role that you haven't done so far which you would love to do, and why?
No, really not. I've done every role that any actor would really want to do. And the last role that I have done has been Girish's play, which he wrote. And he said he wrote it for me. So I'm like, that's it. I don't need anything else. He wrote it because while we were running around to build Rangashankara, I had stopped acting in plays. I was only busy collecting money. And Girish used to make fun of me, saying that we lost a good actor and we got a bad administrator. So get back to acting. And he directed this play, which was called Bodkalu Bimba in Kannada. And that was the only play of his that he directed. And that was also a nicely modern play, not like his older plays based on a myth or a legend or a folk story. But it was here, today's folk story, today's what is happening to everybody. All of us today are trapped in our images because we're conversing with friends and even ourselves just on this little phone or this Zoom call. This has become the only way we are communicating. And this is what that play is really about. So I think Bikhre Bimb, which we've now done in Hindi, and Shabana Azmi has done it in English as Broken Images, is the ultimate challenging role for an actor. And I've done it. I've done it in Kannada and in Hindi. So now I think what I want to do is make it happen for others. That's the high. I'm not very excited about acting anymore. I'll do it. I'll do it again. And we'll do some more shows of Bikhre Bimb when we open the theatre. We're going to open Rangashankara on the 8th of Jan. So we will have Nasiruddin Shah coming and performing. We will have our old Karimais and Mysore Malligis happening. And we will also have Bikhre Bimb happening. But that's not the focal point of my life.
Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I've wondered about actors on stage, when you do multiple performances, so if you do 10 shows, as the days progress, do you in some way change something slightly, or do things get better? Or is it that you get bored after, say, 100 shows and things sort of peter down? How is it?
I think that's the high of theater. Without changing the interpretation, you don't write the lines again. I know sometimes Girish would say to me after a show, because there are different ways in which you could play the role. And Bikre Bimb especially is about a woman, in a nutshell, a woman who's become famous as a novelist, a la Arundhati Roy, and become world famous. And then there is a can of worms about her life that opens out during the play. It's a conversation between her and her image. Actually, you have an image and you have the real actor. And what happens during the performance really is that sometimes I empathize with this woman whose husband was having an affair with her own younger sister. And I get carried away. I feel sorry for her. I have tears in my eyes when I deliver some of the lines. And so I have defeated the image, and I have the audience in my hands, in my pocket. The audience is empathizing with this woman who, poor woman, her husband has cheated her. And sometimes the way Girish wanted it was that we don't need her as a woman who's asking for sympathy. She is a woman who has planned whatever happens in this play. Because she was betrayed, she has planned this. And so there were the shows where I did not break in or fall prey to the sympathy factor of being betrayed, were the shows Girish liked better as the writer and the director of the play. And in the days when the audience would clap because they thought, wow, this woman has played the betrayed woman so beautifully, because everyone wants to empathize with a character. They don't like negative characters. So the audience was kind of confused, didn't know what happened. Can a woman really do this? Because yes, she can. So sometimes Girish would come and say to me, this is not what I've written. Because I would have cried my heart out in the show.
Yeah.
So, theater has this fantastic thing. You can actually change the interpretation of the playwright or the director. The actor has that much responsibility. The responsibility is to not cross over to the other side and diabolically change what the director wanted to say. So I was very fortunate that I had the director and the writer of the play warning me and telling me, be careful, this is not what I wanted.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else wants to ask any question? Muthu sir, Dev? Prasad wants to say something.
Yeah, it's got to do more with films, Arundhati, but since you have been proficient in both, you can probably answer. And it's relevant for a country like ours, which is so multilingual. And with current trends where somebody wants to make a film and immediately dub it in at least minimum of 4 languages. Today, almost every film that you find in one of the South Indian languages or Hindi is available in all 4 on the OTT platforms. So that's not the way the Western world or Hollywood deals with, or other countries deal with language issue. They only put subtitles and allow the film to be in its original language. My problem is that since acting is 50% visual abhinaya and 50% voice, are we giving out a raw deal to all these dubbing artists who, like extras in a film, don't ever get recognized for a great sterling performance in a dubbed film that you watch? I know millions of people watched the dubbed version of Drishyam, and nobody even knew who performed the voice for Mohanlal or any of the stars in that film. So, I mean, what is the way out? I mean, should we get out of dubbed films and only go into subtitling, which preserves what the performer has to give to the film, or we allow, for the sake of reach, we allow dubbing, which takes away the soul of some of the acting?
I think bottom lines have come to be the most important factor for all these decisions. It is money. It's finally money. And also for India, the literacy factor is a very big player. Yeah. So what can be orally heard and appreciated as a subtitle becomes a challenge. So that's why people don't care about it. And there are so many actors, actually. Then this becomes a job. Becoming a dubbing artist is actually becoming a job. Yes, in the West, they have much more value for Jeremy Irons reading poetry, or you have all the leading actors really reading Pablo Neruda, for example. But we had a glimpse of that coming with Karadi Tales and Nasir and all these people. And the world, the Indian world, recognized that, oh my God, yes, we don't need to see Nasiruddin Shah's face, but he brings Sher Khan alive, or he brings whatever character alive. You know, for the first time, Indian audiences recognize that there is so much power in the acting voice of a person. It's going to take long because, yeah, we have so many languages. I can't speak Malayalam. I can't speak Malayalam to save my life.
Maybe we should restore the balance and make sure they get equally credited, right? So that they become more than a dubbing artist.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a good idea, actually. Yeah, but you know, when they're dubbing, they're really only looking at putting it out there for money. There is very little artistic consideration for the artist who is dubbing, or even the act. The film is made. Now we have to just kind of replicate it and make it reach out there in as many languages and dialects as possible, at as less cost as possible. As less cost is the bottom line. So being an artist, yes, one is at the receiving end. I've just worked on an OTT platform, and grappling with the kind of contracts that a Disney or a Netflix gives out. You will be amazed. They are now asking you to sign contracts for the universe. They are not on Earth anymore. So you're signing away your moral rights, your artistic rights. They can use your creation on Mars if they please, in any form, with any language, and you cannot use it even in a stand-up comedy piece of your own. You know, so I haven't signed the contract. I've told them, go to hell. I will. And but there are very few actors like me who can afford to say that, you know. When you're running your fires in the kitchen because of that one role, then you sign. Yeah. You sign on the dotted line. You're an actor who has not had work for the last 9 months, and you get something. Then Disney, or the universe, you can sign for the universes and say, yes, I'll run my house for the next 3 months with this money that I get. But I'm trying to put out on the common platform a document that will help all actors to sign, to put forth in front of the Disneys a contract that keeps their dignity. Oh, yeah. That does not take away every human right of the actor, and still gives the man who's putting the money in the project what he's looking for. So that work is going on right now. So this is how one learns. You know, suddenly one goes there and learns that, oh my God, one needs to help the actor community at least keep their dignity by not having to sign a contract that takes away everything from them.
Thank you.
Aru, before Shibu finally signs off, I must tell you that you're talking about dubbing, and the one that you did for Abhishek Poddar's inaugural video that you put for Museum of Art and Photography, from Shana to the Brahma Day, It was fantastic. It was really very nice. I told Abhishek, I didn't realize that Arun did such a wonderful job of having to take us through the passage of time. And for the first time, I heard many of those words. I didn't even know that there's something that existed. Thank you very much, Arun.
Yeah, actually, that comes from a book called the Puranic Encyclopedia. It's printed by Motilal Banarasi Das, and it is the lifetime's work of a person called Professor Vettam.
Oh.
And very, very interesting nuggets of wisdom. Everybody in the Puranas. You want to know who Arundhati was? She was the wife of Yama also. You want to know who Aravasu was, who Paravasu was in the Vedic and the Puranic period? They're there. Their story is there. Kala. This comes under the description of Kala. Yes.
Thanks. Shibu, over to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, 1 hour has passed in a flash. I don't know how it went by. Thank you so much.
Look forward
it's
to
been
having
a wonderful morning.
Look forward to having all of you come and watch plays at Rangashankara or wherever, anywhere in the world. Yes, we really need real people watching the real thing also. And we are going to need a lot of support to come back. So need all the positive vibes from all of you. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.